everyone. Hopefully if you're watching this video you've already seen the overview video I did of the soft drink bicarbonate of soda experiment. This is the video with the minitab details for doing the project, so this will be really boring and you're probably only going to want to watch it if you actually have to do a statistics project. To start with, when you collect your data, I'm just looking at some spreadsheet software because I know most people don't record the data straight into minitab. Depends what they've got on their laptop or if they're writing on a piece of paper. So here's the don't. Don't create a little table with your value, a two-way table, and then plug your data into there. It's going to be really difficult to work with. This is the kind of table you might spit out at the end to show your data, but you don't want to record it like this. This gets people into more messes than I can possibly tell you. It just messes everything up. So what you want to do is work out what your unit of observation is. For an experiment, that's usually fairly simple. Each trial of the experiment is an observation. You need one row for each observation, so that's what we've got here. And you want just one header row saying what each variable is, and you need a new column for each variable. The only thing the students didn't record here was who was doing each trial of the experiment, and normally you'd want to record that. I have a suspicion, actually, this was a couple of years ago, but I think it might have been one person that did all of the pouring, and one person did all of the measuring, and then one person did all of the timing, etc., which is probably a good way to go because then you don't get errors creeping in due to different people taking over the same job. When you've got your data, the easiest way to get it into minitab for a reasonable sized data set is really just to copy and paste. So I'm just going to select the whole table here. Control C to copy. And then when we go over to minitab, you'll notice that minitab has a special row set up for the headers of the columns. You want to make sure that the first cell is selected so that the headers go into the first row. If you have this row selected and then you paste, minitab is going to get confused. It's going to think everything is a text column and it's going to think that this is your first row of data. So I'm just going to undo that and make sure you pop it in there. Have a quick look to see if minitab knows which are the numerical columns and which are the text columns. So this is a text column, it's got a T there, so that's fine, and the rest are numerical columns. If you see a T in something that should be numerical, it probably means there's an error in your data somewhere. Could be missing data, could be just a slip of the keyboard, so you want to check that. So what I would go through next is just double check that all my data is okay, and I would do that by tallying up these variables. I'd go to Stat, Tables, Tally Individual Variables. I'm not going to tally up height and time because I know because they've been measured they're going to be all over the place, but the type of soda, there should only be 4 types. The height of drop of the bicarbonate, there should only be 2 drop heights, and the amount of bicarb used, there should only be 3 of those. And if we see anything different, that means there's been a bit of a data entry problem somewhere. So if I just have a look here, it says we've got 18 observations for Coke, 18 for Diet Coke, 18 for lemonade, and 18 for orange, which is what we want. We've got 36 at 80, and then another 36 at 180, and here we've got 2.55, 7.5. It's really worth checking this before you do anything else. If, for example, I go through and put a small c there for that Coke, and when you have more than one person doing the data entry, and even when you do it yourself, this is a really simple mistake to make. If we just tally up the variables again, and I'm just interested in the type of soda in this case, you can see that we've now got 1 little Coke and 17 big Cokes, and that is going to mess up everything. So you need to go through and just check you don't have one of these popping out. I'm just going to fix that back up again. Coke. The next thing I would do, just to double check what my data, how my data is organised, is I'd probably do a cross-tabulation to see how balanced the experiment was. Now, your experiments don't have to be balanced. It usually makes the analysis a bit easier if they are, but if you do an experiment and you've got 400 observations and for some reason 2 of them go horribly wrong and you can't use that data, those observations, you don't need to throw the whole data set away. You can still use the rest of it. as long as you're aware as to whether you're balanced or not. So I'm just going to do a cross tabulation. Again, I'm not interested in the response just at the moment. I'm interested in how the experiment was designed. So it's just these three here. So let's do, for the rows, the amount of bicarb, and for the columns, the height of the drop. And layers means it will make a separate table for whichever variable you stick in here. So I'm going to use type of soda for that one. This is where you can do a chi-square test if you want to. We're not interested in that in the moment. We just want to check what our experiment looks like. If I maximise that, we can see, oh, go up. So for each type of soda, go down again. So for Coke, we can see that we've got 3 observations for 2.5 mil of bicarb dropped from the 80 millimetre drop height, and another 3 from the 180. And if we go through for each one of these tables, we've got 3 observations in each of these cells. So this is a balanced experiment, and we've got enough observations because they've replicated it 3 times. We've got enough observations to look at interactions and things later. So it's important to know that. You could also, if you wanted something visual to put in a report to show that your design is balanced or nearly balanced, you could just do some pie or bar charts. Pie charts are nice, so I'll just stick them all in here. It's taking a while to think about that. It's not a good sign. Oh, here we go. So we've got type of soda, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're each got a quarter of the pie, so that means a quarter of the observations were for Coke, a quarter were for orange, a quarter for lemonade, and a quarter for Diet Coke. Half from one drop height, half from the other, a third with one amount of bicarb, and a third from the others. And these colours are terrible. We ought to go through and change these. I do like having the black background for anything that shows up on a computer screen. Obviously for a report you're probably going to want a white background. If you need to muck around with your graphs, just go to Tools, Options, and here you can go through and modify what your charts look like. Now I'm interested in the data view with groups. Fill colours, that's okay, fill types. I don't think I want any fill type. Might just choose one. Now these don't always do exactly what you expect, so it's worth playing around. There we go. So I've got rid of that ugly pattern. I do want these colours because I do want the Coke to be red and the orange to be orange and the lemonade to be blue, because then it's really easy to see what's going on. I've started off with Diet Coke as white. In the overview animation you'll see that I actually used purple for Diet Coke in the end because the white was getting confused with the text and some of the other colours I had. So in the next video we'll take a look at exploring your data and getting some of those nice dot plots and box plots up.